Tales from the Riverbank by John Shackleton. Episode 4, and the winner is... I've got a North Korean student in my Monday evening class. Not sure what he's doing in Bordeaux, and I'm not sure why he's learning English either. I did ask him once, but the answer he gave was vague, sort of vague, incomprehensible really. But I do know his name, of course. It's Kim Suk-bum. And he's great, is Kim Suk-bum. He's great because he's got a bag that he keeps his English folder in, which has "We support your socks life" written on the side of it. He's also great because, although from the north, he lives up to the reputation enjoyed by his fellow Koreans from the southern part of the peninsula for being the Italians of Northeast Asia, fun-loving, controversial, and not afraid to express his opinion. Last week, for example, even before we'd called the register, he took a look around the classroom and said, "I see there is stiff competition in the French erections." There was a bit of an embarrassed silence afterwards, it's true, but once we'd worked out what he was talking about, it proved to be the start of a very interesting dialogue. Which was good, because in my experience, your average French student is not too keen on coming forward with his personal viewpoint, contrary to what you might think. But last Monday, thanks to Kim Suk-bum, we were poised for a political set-to. A discussion on French erections wasn't exactly what I had planned for Monday evening, but I quickly accepted that it was going to be a lot more interesting than the present perfect again, or to give the recycling of this same lesson its correct title, the present perfect continuous, which I exemplify with the sentence, "I have been using the same worksheet for 6 months." While we're on the subject of tenses, it really is nothing short of miraculous, the present perfect. Its incomprehensibility is a vein of rich pedagogical potential, its inexplicability a glimpse of the wonderful mystery of life. I like to think that along with cricket, this unassuming tense represents the very best of our little island's spiritual contribution to the sum of human achievement. You can't understand the present perfect, you just have to believe in it. Not unlike Mr. Kim's pronunciation, in fact, which we had to do a bit of work on before we got going on our debate, but after some remedial, minimal pair drilling, Mr. Kim was all set to follow up his opening gambit with an attempted comprehensive evaluation of the runners and riders in the 2007 French presidential stakes. Like many expats perhaps, Mr. Kim's grasp of the underlying belief systems of the candidates was a little bit shaky, based as it was in his case on just the 2 factors. 1, similarity with politicians of the People's Republic of North Korea. 2, haircut. But no matter, because we were all there to chip in with our own take on the personalities who were in the race to become the next big cheese, the premier cru, the head chef of the world's greatest gastronomic empire. First out of the blocks and ahead in the polls is Nicolas Sarkozy, a clear favourite with Mr. Kim because of his striking physical resemblance to his namesake Kim Jong-il. Sarkozy, or Sarko as he's known here, presumably because of his resemblance to Anthony Perkins as well as Kim Jong-il, is the current Minister for the Interior, with clear ambitions to be in charge of the outside as well. Right of centre, his manifesto has led a number of commentators to label him as the political love child of Margaret Thatcher and Alastair Campbell. Like all the candidates, Mr. Sarkozy is promising a break with the past being the present of inflexible employment conditions, high taxation and social security charges, low economic growth, and a lack of engagement with the political process, which the current government, of which Sarkozy is a member of course, has been grappling with unsuccessfully since it took office. Although, to be honest, the lack of progress isn't really their fault, because every time they try and do something, the whole country takes to the streets in protest. Generally speaking, people here seem to be in favour of change, as long as it doesn't affect them in any way. Next, comes Ségolène Royal. She's representing the Socialist Party, rather than being the monarchist candidate, as her name might suggest. Her nomination was confirmed following the disqualification on the grounds of nationality of her main rivals, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, German, Jack Lang, American, and François Hollande, Dutch. Unfortunately, Madame Royale has been involved in a few damaging faux pas recently by seeming to be in support of, in this order, independence from Canada for Quebec, independence from France for Corsica, and independence from America for Britain. Mr. Kim was at a loss as to what to make of Madame Royale, her hair being considerably longer than any of the political leaders they have back in Pyongyang. Some way behind in third place, depending on which opinion polls you choose to believe, is Jean-Marie Le Pen. Monsieur Le Pen is the leader of the National Front. He's been around for a long time, long enough apparently to be able to ascribe all of France's problems to one single issue: immigration. Mr. Kim had no difficulty at all in identifying with Monsieur Le Pen's candidature. As he pointed out to us, nobody is allowed in or out of North Korea. François Bayrou is in fourth position. He's a kind of Ted Heath, from what I can gather, the acceptable face of conservative politics. I haven't worked out yet whether his laboured delivery is the result of profound reflection or brain disease. Still, we were certainly not complaining because, at a word a minute, me and Mr. Kim can understand absolutely everything he's saying. Along with the main candidates, there are lots of colourful outsiders who complete the starting lineup. José Bové, a left-wing populist who drove a bulldozer into the Millau branch of McDonald's in 1999. Clearly presidential material, and his anti-American stance is altogether to the liking of Mr. Kim. Greens chief Dominique Voynet, who Mr. Kim thought was responsible for the election vegetables until we put him straight. Philippe de Villiers, who appears to be a younger version of Le Pen with much whiter teeth and a regulation PRK haircut. There are also lots of disciples of Lenin floating around: Marie-Georges Buffet, Arlette Laguillet, Olivier Besancenot, Gérard Chivardi, who all received the enthusiastic backing of Sakban. Concluding the list of hopefuls, there's someone from the Royal Alliance, the Movement for a Concrete Utopia, the Ecological Generation, France Action, the Taxpayers Movement, and the Union of Direct Democracy. There's even someone called Frédéric Nuhu, who's from the Hunting and Fishing Party, a sort of heavily armed countryside alliance. None of these, however, look likely to poll more than 10% of the vote put together, so essentially it's Sarkozy against Royal, a two-horse race, just like in 2002. Only that time around, it was Chirac and Jospin. Except Jean-Marie Le Pen actually made it to the second round and not Jospin. Much to everybody's surprise, although not, I imagine, a surprise for the 20% or so of the electorate who voted for him. Judging by the expression on his face when the results were announced, probably the person who was most shocked was Le Pen himself. After years of complaining about the government, he was suddenly faced with the possibility, in the unlikely event he beat Chirac, of having to run France himself. Clearly a very scary moment for him. Who would he blame if something went wrong? So, mindful of the lessons of history, if only I could whip up the same level of interest in the lessons of English, none of us were writing off Le Pen or Bayrou. And what about the 2002 winner, the present incumbent, Jacques Chirac himself? Only the other day, the Defense Secretary, Michel Alliot-Marie, was moved to say that there are just two great symbols people associate with France, the Eiffel Tower and Jacques Chirac, to which my wife was moved to say, God help them then. Is he going to stand again? Not without a Zimmer frame, says Mrs. S. it's unlikely he will run for re-election, which is a shame because Jacques Chirac is an institution, and I think it was quite unfair of a few of my students to suggest he belonged in one. Although I have to say, when I saw him on the TV yesterday, doddering along through the trees, I did think to myself that he wouldn't look out of place in the grounds of a mental hospital. And I imagined the nurse showing visitors around and pointing at Chirac and saying, "You see that one over there? He thinks he's the president." By the time our Monday evening lesson had come to an end, Mr. Kim and the rest of us were tired but happy. We'd explored in detail the political and private lives of all the candidates and expressed our views on the future perfect. And although opinion was divided over who would win the election, we were all agreed that this kind of lesson was a lot more exciting than English glamour.